Thank you so much for being here tonight. Welcome to the Expats Portugal Calling webinar, the first one of 2023, the do's and don'ts of social life, the cultural norms and etiquette here in Portugal. Ana Vieira in Cascais, Filomena Pascal in central Portugal. Good evening to you both. Happy New Year to you. Bom ano novo, feliz ano novo, prospero ano novo. Did I get the, are there any I missed there? Let's start with you, Ana.
Hello, everybody. Feliz ano novo. That's my favorite one.
That's your favorite. Okay,
Yeah.
Happy New Year. That'll be, won't it? And what about you, Filomena?
Yes, as well. Yeah, Feliz Ano Novo. Of course, you can also say Próspero Ano Novo, but that seems a little bit more old-fashioned to me. But it's Feliz Ano Novo.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
What a great place to start tonight. And thank you. Yeah, lots of lovely comments coming in. Can't move over yet. Hello from Atlanta. We've got all sorts of challenges I think we may well be able to help with there. So do keep your updates coming into the chat. Hello from Washington, DC, sunny Texas. Fantastic. Feliz Ano Novo coming in from quite a few people. Arizona, New Zealand. Superb on the other side of the world there. And good evening to, Matt, Steve, JC, Melissa, Heather, Antonio, to name but a few so far. We may well have Antonio. Is that Antonio who is now with us after work or not, or a different Antonio? Do please make yourself known to us, Antonio, in the chat, and we'll make sure you're included in the discussion if you're our very own Antonio F this evening. So the headline subjects we'll be looking at this evening are people, and I suppose the communication that goes on socially. We'll be looking at dining as well, eating out and what to do and what not to do. That's always good fun here in Portugal. Dress, as in dress codes. Should you wear sandals and socks in Portugal? Might that go down well or be a bit of a fashion faux pas? And driving, of course, because driving is so boring in Portugal. Let's see what we can do to spice that up. And the miscellaneous section, basically anything else you want to bring in after we've covered those main headlines of driving, dress, dining, and people. So let's start with people. The big one, of course, Filomena, not to be confused, Portuguese and Spanish people, right? So maybe not, do not say gracias when you're communicating. What do you make of this rivalry and this business of Portuguese and Spanish people?
Well, of course, when some foreigners sometimes they use Spanish words thinking that, oh, this is Portuguese, like gracias and siesta. Lots of people that I know, sometimes they say, oh, it's time for siesta now. And they think that they are using a Portuguese word. It's not. Yeah. We have the Portuguese sesta, but not siesta.
Okay, very good. And we don't, I say we, us Portuguese, we don't tend to sleep in the afternoon anyway, do we? Only on a very special occasion.
No, it's not. It's not a custom. It's not a habit in Portugal to sleep in the afternoon. For example, even if you compare the timetable of the shops in Portugal and in Spain, and you cross the border, I usually cross the border, usually in the Algarve when I go to the Algarve, and it's very simple to compare. They open at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after the lunch break. They open at 5 o'clock usually, and we open at 3 o'clock. The usual traditional shop. Yes. So they like to sleep the siesta. We don't.
No, we don't, do we? We're too hardworking and busy. We've got too much to do over here.
I have a problem now. I have to leave.
Jerry giving away his life hack secrets there. There may well be a few other people nodding and owning up to have a power snooze. Let's call it a power Portuguese power snooze. Okay, so on this matter of timekeeping, some say, I would never dare, but some say Portuguese people are always late. So when it comes to meeting, whether it be for business or socially, I have noticed this, that maybe Portuguese people are a little bit informal with timekeeping when compared to the British ways. Anna, what would you say about this? You're already laughing.
I'm laughing because you are being kind.
Okay.
So I think it depends on people. I think generalization is not a good thing. So in my case, I'm always on time, so maybe I'm not a good example, but I understand what you say, that usually there are some people that are not so punctual, but usually it's about I don't know, it would say 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Some people say it's polite to be late 15 minutes. If you
Yes.
are visiting someone at his house, for instance, you invite for dinner and some people arrive like 10, 15 minutes. This is because I believe you don't want to be right on time because you look like anxious to be there, so you can stress a lot the people that are receiving you, okay? But this is not general, okay? Usually people tend to be more punctual than half an hour or something. So it's not a custom. But if you have a meeting, a business meeting, it's very polite to be on time, okay? Or a doctor's appointment or anything else. So we like to be on time. So we are not so typical late, okay? But it's for some years we said, oh, if you arrive at somebody's home, please don't arrive on time, just take 5 or 10 minutes after the time schedule. But that's more informal ways, okay? So if it's a business meeting or a doctor's appointment or a chef appointment or something like that.
Yeah, don't you dare to be late.
Don't be late.
I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that a little bit later on because I had one last week, and actually I wanted to talk about it from the point of view of dress code, but that's really helpful. Barak has just arrived and is saying, "Sorry, I'm late."
Yes.
No, webinars in Portugal. We like you to be on time, please, for those. And point taken. I think the arriving a little bit late when you're going to somebody's house is a good look because you don't want to be all British about it, do you? And be on the doorstep 5 minutes before, showing how great you are at timekeeping. and as you say, even with the official ones, be on time. Even if you don't get called at that time, it's good to show up on time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Like doctor's appointment, usually people don't get called on time, but it's good to be on time.
Yes. Okay. So Philomena, should you kiss the doctor?
No.
This is kissing. This is kissing. Whether it is
no people
kissing,
think that
one
it's
kissing,
usual to kiss everybody in Portugal. No, you don't kiss a doctor. No.
All right.
Usually you don't.
Who should be kissed and how many times?
Well, when we do kiss, it's one kiss in each cheek.
Right.
You start by the left, and then the right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, isn't it, Anna? Left.
Yeah.
Go to their left.
Yes, I go left first.
Yes,
my left
first, and then
right.
To your right. And but and after the pandemic, it's a lot less than it used to be. Before the pandemic, it was quite common. For example, because I teach Portuguese to lots of foreigners, and lots of them used to love to come to my lessons, and the first thing they would do was kissing me, right? They would, it's always fun to come and kiss the teacher, right? But of course, after the pandemic, it's a bit different because now everyone is a little bit more cautious, don't step near. But when you kiss someone, it's usually your family or your friends, your close friends. When you meet your friends, even in the street, if you meet them, it's usual to give them 2 kisses.
Okay, and would that be accompanied by a handshake? I mean, handshaking is definitely something to do. I found that a really reassuring thing in Portugal. People do like to shake
kiss
hands.
or you handshake.
It's either or, not both.
Yes,
not both.
Not both.
Yeah. Or you give a hug.
Or you hug.
Portuguese
we hug a lot.
like hugs. We love hugging. So you just see someone and go, and hug him or her. Yeah.
But usually if it's more formal, like you go to the doctor, you give a handshake. Okay, you can give your doctor a handshake.
If at all, because
after several appointments, if you get to be with him, like he's your family doctor, you see them every 6 months or something, you can give a kiss. It's not a problem.
Okay, so we're seeing a kind of hierarchy of familiarity. So either or the handshake or the kiss and maybe the hug, and you work your way towards that according to your familiarity with that person. That's really helpful. So
but
yes,
if you are a man, don't kiss other men, okay?
Okay, all right.
So between men, it's handshake.
Did you hear that, Carl?
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I
All
told
right.
you, Carl,
Some
I told
countries
you not to
do.
do
Some
that.
countries do, but in Portugal, between
Yeah.
two men, you don't kiss.
That
Yeah,
is
my-
true, isn't
my-
it? Yeah, yeah.
My husband, for example, he was surprised completely when we went to Turkey, and we had some Turkish friends there, and the Turkish man, our friend, he came to him and he kissed him, and he was, he was not expecting to be
Visibly
kissed
shocked.
by a man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and of course,
Yeah.
in Turkey, for example, men and women don't kiss either. But okay.
Is that right? That's so fascinating, isn't it? In Argentina, apparently men kiss men. Thank you, Antonio. So it's not the Antonio we were expecting. That's not to say we're unhappy to see you, Antonio. First time joining the webinar, so I could have really put you in the deep end, but let's break it slowly. Just a handshake virtually this time. But thank you for your input so far, Antonio. You're going to add something there, Philomena.
Yes, sorry to interrupt, but we do men do kiss men if it's, for example,
Family.
your son,
Yeah.
the son that kisses a father, or vice versa.
Uncles,
brothers,
grandfathers.
Yeah. Within the family, you can kiss. Men can kiss other men, but just being friends, or
No.
it's not a thing to kiss other men.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so
And
let's
also, I don't know if Philomena agrees, but imagine you you go on the street and you have friends, and they introduce you to other friends. If you are a man and the other friends are a girl or a woman but older, sometimes it's good to have some cautious before you go and kiss her, because you need to know if she's more formal or more informal. Okay. If you are a man. If you are a lady, between two girls, it's more accepted. I know this is not a very good thing about us, but you need to be like a little bit cautious. If you are going to kiss a lady for the first time, well, if you need to understand if she's older, if she will accept, or if she will prefer the handshake.
Okay, so caution is the order of the day then.
Yeah.
And to rather than overdo it, and
especially for older ladies, and if you are a man. Okay.
Yes.
And for older people anyway, we have a more polite way of speaking, because you know that in Portuguese we have two ways of addressing someone, formally or informally. Tu and você, or o senhor, a senhora. And regarding elderly people or older people than us, we do tend to be more polite, more formal, as a sign of respect for their age. So it's not just the kissing, or it's in general, we do show our respect when they are older than us.
Very good. Glad to hear it. Sometimes I've noticed an older lady might present her cheek to be kissed. And at that point, you should do it, shouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
don't leave them standing there like,
No.
like with your hand trying to do a handshake, and she's like,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to be taking notes.
Punch her in the nose.
So if the cheek is offered, it would be impolite then not to I was to say take advantage. I don't mean that. I mean to reciprocate.
Yeah. Also, it's not very common, but in some families, as you are very, very related, some people just give one kiss. When you are really close to them, it's everyday relation. So when you meet your brother or your sister every day, and sometimes we only give one kiss, and this is not the fancy way of saying, because in Cascais, for instance,
that's what I was thinking.
They say we are very exquisite, and sometimes they say in Cascais people only give one kiss because it's more luxury, more chic, but that's not true. We give 2 kisses as everybody, but sometimes if you are together with the same person every day, like your son, your mother, your father, we just give 1 kiss because we see them every day. So it's, hi, how are you? 1 kiss, and that's it.
Well, I have to say that
some
we
cases.
Don't.
Okay, so
we don't. Here in Central Portugal, we always give 2 kisses.
Okay, So
Fantastic. You gotta love
it's
it.
better to go to Central Portugal.
Yes. Well, I mean, that might inform some people's decisions tonight about where to live. That's really useful to know. Yeah. If you want to venture further into Central Portugal, fantastic. So, and while we're on the subject here, something else that's occurred to me with this is with the older folks. They do like to touch the heads of the children, small children passing by, or even give the kids a hug. Which came as a bit of a surprise to us when we were first in. Not that it was a bad thing, but it's strangers. You might get a grandma who will be very effusive in her show of affection and wonder around young children, and hug the children and maybe present her cheek and ruffle the hair of the kids. That's quite normal, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's a lovely thing as well.
Yeah, in some countries it's not correct, and you should be careful. But in Portugal, people tend to just give a little, I don't know, cuddling in children's head, and that's normal. That's not abusive. It's like we just want to cheer them because they are children. Yeah.
I think it's lovely, and we would hear old ladies saying "Linda, Linda" like this.
Yes.
Now,
beautiful.
That's not my daughter's name. Everyone was calling the daughter Linda, I thought, but of course, Linda means beautiful. So that's really nice to know as well. Okay, let's get a bit formal again. Let's say we're back at the doctor's or more of a meeting situation, and this whole service concept. Getting what service people, your standard of service people are used to, and whether to ring, whether to email, what to expect in terms of response times and so on. Am I right in saying, and we have talked about this, a few times over the last couple of years, haven't we, in various settings, about how it might be better in a transactional, in a relational culture such as Portugal is, rather than a transactional one, not to rely on the email in the way that a lot of people do around the world now. If you don't get a response from your email, you shouldn't take it personally. This is not a wholly sort of email-based country as a favored form of communication, is it? Let's go to you, Anna, on that. What would you say? Should you ring? Should you email? Should you turn up in person if you want the best possible service from a formal situation?
It really depends. In my case, in my work, I always respond to any email I receive. But I understand that in Portugal, if you want to have some answers more quickly, it's better to use the phone. Okay. But it's usually in some companies, they have a response time to give you an answer to your email. Sometimes it's 3 days, 4 days. So expect maybe until 1 week for that, but it's not a rule. Okay, it's like I believe we don't work with email like other countries. So some people tend to take longer to answer the emails. Okay, if you want a quick answer, it's better to call the services.
Or go there.
There. That's right.
Because, for example, here I have some expats that they email the town hall, for example, and they expect the town hall to give them an answer. The town hall doesn't. It won't happen. So either they go there and they speak to someone, or they will never have an answer.
That's such good advice, isn't it? Because if you are from a culture where you send a lot of emails, it's not really a defense in Portugal, is it, to say, well, I sent an email. That's not really going to work. That's your problem, isn't it? If you sent an email and didn't get a response and something didn't get attended to, it's still down to you to make the communication. And as we
and usually you'll get an answer like, which email did you send to? Because there's like 100 email addresses in a town hall, for instance. So you need to be sure you pick the right email to get an answer. So that's, in some cases, it's better to go there or to pick up the phone. Yeah.
I've heard this, Anna. That's such a great thing to include there, because which email did you send it to? The one on the website.
Oh, that's
it's not that one. It's not that one. It's not the one on the website.
Even yesterday, I was with an Englishman who has moved north, and he was expecting some license from the town hall there. And he said, finally, I got the license, but I went to the town hall almost every day to remind them, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the way to do it. I said, yeah, congratulations, you got it now.
And to make new friends. I mean, clearly, bureaucracy is something we can talk about in this section, as well as speaking of English / Portuguese. And but bureaucracy, what's the first thing that comes to mind from your experience of hearing about foreigners' anecdotes of bureaucracy, and the one you just mentioned there, Filomena? What should we bear in mind when dealing with government offices as newcomers to Portugal? Let's start with you, Filomena, while you're on the subject.
Well, there is a lot of bureaucracy. That's true. Because, for example, the last few weeks, I have been doing something with some property I have bought, let's say, and I've been, you know, to the notary and to the finance department, and then from the finance department I have to wait until they will let me know when the paper is ready, and then I get the phone call from the financial department. Then I have to go there, take the paper to the notary again, and then today I went to the notary again, left the paper there, and they said, okay, we'll let you know when the paper is ready. So okay, I just have to calm down and wait.
There you go. That's what you need to do. Calm down and wait, basically. Would you agree, Anna?
Be patient.
Yes.
It's a way of life,
to be
isn't it?
very patient. Yeah.
Sometimes I think we are in Europe and we are a first world country, but some services are not first world service countries. Okay, so be patient, and well, that's what I have to say. Regarding especially public services, it can be tricky. It can be misleading you from one sector to the other, one department to the other. Nobody is responsible. You need to recall them every day if you need something urgent. So it's not easy. It's not easy. No.
They never tell you the whole list of things that you have to take. You know, they tell you have to bring this and this and this, and then you go there with those, and then they say, oh, but this is missing, and then you go, why did you say so? But it's happening all the time.
You didn't ask. You didn't ask. And this is why the forum, the Expats Portugal forum, is so important and useful, because when you do go to these meetings and you can report back to others what you should have taken but didn't know about, that can save other people a lot of time. So it's gathering and sharing the intelligence on the Expats Portugal forum would be a great service to the community. And already there's a lot of information of that kind, but it's always good to refresh that. If you're having meetings just recently with any kind of government office, it really helps other people to share what went on. Okay. That's fantastic. Learning a little bit about the bureaucracy. We must challenge our expectations and adjust them, mustn't we? And it's not because we're foreigners that
no. If you don't know what to take, just take everything you've got. Everything. Every paper, every document, even if it's a completely different sector, take everything you've got. That's what Portuguese people do.
That's my advice as well. Whenever someone has to take care of some paperwork, I always tell them, bring everything.
Yes. My latest strategy, and you might approve of this given what you've just said, is when I first got here, I realized that was the case, and I went and got myself a concertina folder from a Chinese shop. I think there were two of them. I think it was a bargain. And what I do more recently is take that concertina folder with everything, but have a smaller file with those punched transparent pockets with the things I think I'm going to need. So I present that first, and then when they say, have you got your great grandparents' DNA sample, then I can look back into the other bigger file and find that somewhere else. So yeah, 2-tier system. I would recommend it. English and Portuguese. Now, this is always strikes terror sometimes into the hearts of the new foreigners coming in, and in these sorts of situations, bureaucracy. But let's also talk about social situations as well. What would be the Portuguese expectation, generally speaking, of how much you should try to speak Portuguese and engage in the Portuguese language? Let's start with you, Filomena, as a teacher of Portuguese.
Yes. Well, of course, people always appreciate if you speak Portuguese, right? You are in Portugal, so people appreciate that if you speak Portuguese. But there are lots of places where when they understand that you don't speak Portuguese or you don't speak enough Portuguese to have a conversation on that level, of course, they are usually happy to speak English as well. But of course, this depends on on the place, because, for example, in our local health center in Miranda do Corvo, which is a small town, the people at the desk, they don't usually speak English. So even if they want to help, they can't do much, because they don't speak English. They just speak Portuguese. That's why I sometimes go with my students, because I am the translator at that time, and I help them to get what they want. But usually people are very helpful in cafes, for example, or restaurants. You know, they even there are cases when people start to speak in Portuguese, and then people understand that they are not Portuguese, and they immediately speak in English to them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you can find this, can't you, in central Portugal? You'll be there and you'll be thinking everyone speaks Portuguese here, and you start to panic a little bit, and somebody behind you will start speaking in English, and you think, I'm in the middle of nowhere in central Portugal. This person is helping me out here. They are a godsend. And you say, how do you get to speak English like this? Oh, I lived in America for 30 years and now I've come back. Often, you know, there's a real godsend of a person often, but it's always best to try, isn't it, and make the effort in the first instance.
Yes, of course. At least the basics, the very basic things. You know, you should learn, I think, for you also to be more confident. And if you need any help, of course, there is always someone in the queue, or there is always someone that is willing to help.
Yeah. Take a risk, take a chance, open your heart, open your mind, and give it a go. Anna, would you add anything to that?
No, it's like Filomena says, it's nice if you try, or if you show that you learn some words. But in most places, especially touristic places and younger people, you will find that they will speak English with you and try to help you. But of course, it would be very much appreciated if you can say some words, and please in Portuguese, not in Spanish. Okay.
That's a good one, Anna.
Jerry,
don't say gracias in the end of the gracias.
Anna just stole my thunder. I was about to suggest, well, if you can't handle Portuguese, you could always try Spanish.
No.
You beat me to it.
Jerry, honestly, the siesta and now the Spanish. What's going on here? Nice.
But even if you say that you are sorry, you can't speak any Portuguese yet, at least say that, because don't start with the assumption that people should speak in English to you, because you are in Portugal, and English is not a language in Portugal. I mean, it's not the official language. So you can't assume that everybody else should speak in English. But I think you must be a bit more humble to show them that you are sorry you don't speak the language, but at least tell them that, so they are sure that you are trying, but you can't do better.
I think to apologize in the beginning, and to thank them at the end for speaking English. I always try to make a point of doing that, to thank people for speaking English. And usually they'll say, they're so polite, and they'll say, oh, my English is so bad. And I said, no, your English is so good and so much better than my Portuguese. So it's,
Yeah, superb. Thank you.
That's the way to handle it.
I think we are not very demanding, because we know Portuguese, it's a hard language. It's very difficult to learn. So that's why we try to help everybody, even if we don't speak very good English. Most of the people will try and will make an effort. So please ask before if you can help them if they speak English, and just be polite, like you would be in any place. So it's that.
So when we're talking now about the let me first introduce myself. I'm Vladimir Kneitner. I'm still in Brooklyn, New York. We're moving in February. I mean, everything what you guys say, is really a common sense. Being nice and polite to people and respect their culture and heritage always works, right? But the question that I have is that there are obviously good plenty of places where you can actually enroll classes, Portuguese classes, or I don't know, do it online, or with pro. Is there any place that actually does this with new immigrants and stuff like that? That actually have something that you can recommend that I would gladly take.
Thank you for that, Vladimir. Let's go to Philomena for that. She's the ideal person to answer that question.
Yes, of course. There are lots of immigrants from several countries in Portugal, and lots of immigrants come to work. So they really need to know the language to work. So there is the employment center, Centro de Emprego e Formação Profissional, that they are a government section, let's say, and they offer Portuguese lessons for free. You just have to contact the local section of the health center, the job center, the local job center. As I said, Centro de Emprego e Formação Profissional. So professional training and job center as well. And so you have to enroll in those centers. For that, you have to have, there we go with bureaucracy again, you have to have lots of things done. So you have to have your fiscal number, you have to have your social security number. And sometimes people think, but if I don't work here, why should I have a social security number? Well, because to be a user of to benefit from those lessons, you really have to be enrolled in those institutions. So the social security number is essential, but it doesn't mean that you pay if you don't work. You shouldn't pay your social security if you don't work. But you really need the number to be enrolled in those classes.
That's NIF, right? Yeah.
That's the NIF is the fiscal number.
Fiscal number, yeah.
Identificação fiscal, yes. But apart from the NIF, you also need the Segurança Social, Social Security, Segurança Social, which you can easily get going to a social security office and tell them that you need the number for Portuguese lessons, because they are going to ask you if you are working or what do you need the number for. But you should tell them that you need the number to enroll in the Portuguese classes, and they just give you the number. It's very simple. You just fill in a form and you are given a number, and then you can enroll, as I said, in the nearest job center. So, for example, here I am in Miranda do Corvo. The nearest one is in Lausanne, which is about 10 kilometers away from here. Some classes are in Lausanne, some classes are here in my town. So it all depends on your local.
Right.
Philomena, is that A2? Is that A2 level, Philomena, that would go to in those situations?
The A1, the A2 level, yes, you have several levels, but of course the A1 and A2, basically because they are essential for people who need to work. And so the very basic, they need to learn the very basic. And so you have at least, you have to have 15 people together to make a class. So it's always at least 14, 15 people to start. So sometimes you go and you can enroll your name there, but then you have to wait until they have the 15 people interested in the same kind of classes.
Get a gang together. Get a gang together on Expats. You've got 2 already. That's fantastic, Vladimir. Right. I'm gonna bring it back to etiquette and culture shock. And what we'll do towards the end is we'll do those acronyms of the numbers. So you'll know what the NIF, the NIS, and the SNS numbers are, the UTENT number. So we'll make sure we cover that before the end, because that's very useful stuff. And we've made a cracking start there with etiquette and culture shock, or helping you to avoid culture shock, basically, tonight with our fantastic guests Anna and Philomena, who are here tonight. We've also got Karen in, and Ray, Julie, Dwight, and Gail. I Neumann, Violet is also here, as is Laurie. Thank you everybody for being here. Christina, good evening to you, and Carlos, great to see you here this evening. Antonio, thank you very much for your contributions, including do you hug the doctor? I think we dealt with that. Before we move on to dining, dress, and driving, let's just wrap up a few extra questions that came in while we were talking about people and everyday communication there. I'm from Brazil, and we tend to touch people on their arms, says Antonio, and their shoulders. Is that also common in Portugal? So there is the thing, isn't there, about arms? Do you touch below the elbow? Are you allowed to touch above the elbow? What's the etiquette in Portugal, Anna?
That's funny. Yes, we touch. We also touch. We also speak with our hands. So we tend to be very, very touchy, very social. So it's common. It's not a problem. Of course, you don't start like with that with everybody, but yes, during the conversation you can touch the arms or anything. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so above the elbow is okay. Another cultural everyday situation, Philomena. Do women feel offended if men give them their seats in a subway, metro, for example, or do they see it as a kind and respectful gesture?
Yes, it's a respectful gesture, and there is no problem, absolutely no problem in the ladies will be pleased, of course.
Yeah, very good. Catherine, sorry to hear of your pain here of emailing their local health centre. They never answer the phone, and I'm trying to schedule an appointment for 2 months, nothing. I think you may have to pop down there. Is that right?
Yeah, my advice would be go there yourself. Okay. Yeah.
Alison and Michael, when we first moved to Portugal, can we find libraries in most towns where we could go and use a computer and printer to make copies of important documents? Yes, you can.
Yes.
It would spare you the misery of buying a printer and having to make it work at home, which I've just tried to do this evening. and other shops are available as well, where people will print things for you, right? It's not just the library, is it? There are commercial shops that maybe sell phones and car hire, the corner shop, cigarettes and magazines, and they might also have a print.
I think even in post offices, even post offices do that. Of course, they charge for it, but I think they do that as well.
Brilliant. There you go, Alison and Michael. Dwight, is it okay to use a phone translator? I mean, if all else fails, at least you're making an effort, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. Anna, thank you for putting the where people need to go to the Centro de Emprego y Formación Profesional as well. That's fantastic. Lee, well done. Just started classes in Lisbon. Not free, but seem reasonable. That's brilliant. And no NIF needed there. And a link. Thank you for that. And I, Neumann, Chinese shops in Spain and Portugal have everything you think you don't need, which will come in handy when you don't have a screwdriver and nuts and bolts to get your license plate to be visible, etc. That sounds like a very specific problem there that a Chinese shop was able to help you with, probably a very modest price as well. So yeah, for all those little everyday things, Chinese shops are very helpful, but don't expect the things to last necessarily that you buy for €1 in there. Let's move on to that important topic of dining now, and eating out, and what we should and shouldn't do in the restaurants of Portugal. Love this section. But dinner times, you know, as British people, we sometimes like to go out for dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe not quite that early, but you know what I'm getting at here. Lunch and dinner times, when are they, Anna?
Well, it really depends on, in my opinion, on weekdays and weekends.
Okay.
But mainly lunchtime is starting at 1 and dinner time at 8. If you have kids and if you are on weekdays, usually dinner can be at 7:30 or about that. But usually at restaurants, etc., it's more. Of course, they are open at 7:30, but usually Portuguese people tend to go have dinner starting at 8 or after that.
Right. And if you eat at other times, you can get snacks throughout the day.
Yeah. We have a lot of snacks and coffees. So,
So do.
yeah, you start in the morning and you end in the midnight. So no problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and talking when you do sit down to have your lunch or your dinner, often the way here, and particularly in tourist areas, Philomena, there's the bread, the olives, the butter, and so on. Fish paste will turn up on the table, and that could be an awkward moment for some foreigners, can't it? It's like I've got to eat this, but you can send it back, can't you? And then you won't be paying for it.
Yes, of course you can send it back. It also depends on some places they charge for it extra, some places don't. It also depends on the restaurant. But of course, you don't need to. Lots of times I don't. So if you don't like them, or if you don't feel like it, you just don't eat them.
No, obrigado.
Just please try to send them back before you start to choose anything.
Yeah, even if you try one, one,
you'll pay for all.
You're guilty.
So make sure you ask them to take them off before you start to order, because you will have to pay them, of course.
Very good. Okay, so and don't be afraid to send those back if you don't want
them.
them.
No, it's not a problem. If you don't want, you just say, I don't want, please take it. Yeah.
No problem.
And that's sometimes where you will experience for the first
Or you can choose. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
maybe sometimes they bring a lot of things and you just want the bread and the butter, or the bread and the olives. You just say, oh, please, I just want this. Can you take the rest back, please? And that's it.
Very good. Now, that's when you're likely to have cheese. Some people are used to the idea of cheese at the end of a meal, aren't they? In certain cultures, the cheese will come at the beginning, probably with that range of platters at the beginning there. So be aware of that. And that's in other people's houses as well. It may be that the cheese is before the meal rather than after it. TVs in restaurants and cafes. What's that about in Portugal? Who wants to take that? Anna, go on.
I don't know. Some restaurants have it, and they are loud. Usually they are making noise. If in some restaurants it's always on the sports channel, so you'll see sports all over. Other places have the news, which is even worse. So I'm sorry. It's like
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, usually if it's usually on lunchtime or daily basis restaurants, for the not fancy restaurants, of course, but if it's just a regular restaurant, they will have the TV on. And usually the employees are like, and you have to wave them because they are distracted. So
yes, okay.
Yeah.
Keeps everyone happy for some of the time there.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe get used to that. I mean, we do hear of people complaining about that, but it is part of the culture.
Yeah, but as Anna said, it's the more regular, let's say, restaurants. If you go to a more expensive restaurant, they don't usually have the TV on.
No.
They don't even have a TV.
Oh.
But because the Portuguese, they do go to the restaurant quite a lot at lunchtime, especially at lunchtime. The Portuguese go a lot to the restaurant because the meals are not very expensive. The prato do dia, the day special, they are not expensive, and so people just go and they watch the news at the same time to be updated with the latest news. But of course, if you go to a more expensive restaurant, as Anna said, for example, my favorite restaurant doesn't have a TV. And yes, you go there to enjoy your meal and to speak with your people that are with you, and you don't have a TV. Yeah.
Okay. So
I think some restaurants also have it, because a lot of people, especially on weekdays and lunchtime, go alone to have lunch. So it's like the restaurants have the television, so people can have some. Well, now they have the phones, but it's different entertainment. Yeah,
That's an interesting view on it. That's
because it's more for regular restaurants. Of course, if you go to a more fancy restaurant or a special restaurant, you don't have the television. But for the daily basis, regular restaurants that you find in every corner, in every city, in every villa, some of them have the televisions on, and I think one of the reasons is that also because people tend to go there on work days just to have a quick lunch, and they are alone, so they can watch television.
Very good. That hadn't occurred to me. Philomena, I think you said Portuguese people are popping in and out of cafes and restaurants all day long, or something along those lines, often for a coffee. It might not be for a meal, or it might just be for the coffee. Portuguese people have 2 or 3 coffees a day, possibly, as part of the social scene. Should we do a quick introduction to Portuguese coffee and how to order it? The basic coffee is café, faz favor, isn't it? The small espresso style, and that is a national favorite. It's an institution, really, isn't it? And you might be paying something like 85 cents, 90 a euro perhaps for a cup of coffee. What if people want an Americano or something that approximates to
Abatanado.
Okay, a Abatanado for an Americano. Okay, very good. Or café cheio, I guess. Top it up with all the water there.
Café cheio, it's still an espresso, right?
Okay, but with more.
Café cheio it's a full espresso.
Okay, if I fancy a cappuccino, what's the closest thing to a cappuccino?
Well, maybe a Abatanado, I would say.
Okay.
I'm not the expert in coffee because I don't like coffee at all.
Wow. Shock horror. What? Can't believe it. Maybe Anna's the girl for this then. Because there's the meia de leite, isn't there? Which is like half milk, literally.
Yeah, it's half milk. Yeah, it's coffee with milk, and if you want in a bigger cup, so you have a big glass. It's a galão, which has more milk than the.
And you also have the garoto as well. In an espresso cup.
Yeah, it's like a coffee with just a drop of milk.
Little splat of milk in there. Okay, so there you go. There's your very quick.
And regarding cappuccino, I don't know. Depends on the places where you go. Yeah. In some places they won't serve you. In other places you just ask cappuccino, like the word. It's if the coffee has it, if the place where you go has that, they will know the name.
But it's not very common.
No, it's not.
It's not very common for the Portuguese don't usually. I would say that the Portuguese don't usually have cappuccino.
Yeah. It's more in touristic areas where the coffees are very beautiful, made with all those croissants and etc. And there you can have a cappuccino. Of course, in big cities like Porto, Lisbon, you'll find a lot of places with that. If you are in more interior places, more smaller villas, they don't serve you a cappuccino.
Yeah, it's not traditional, is it? So
but you can buy a machine and you can make it at home.
There you go. There's a solution.
Every house in Portugal has a little espresso machine.
Yeah,
so
even me, and I don't like coffee.
There you go. So you will be able to find it ultimately, but it's not traditional, nor is the flat white, and nor, James, is the tea latte. A chai latte. Can we get one of those in Portugal, or should we adjust our expectations otherwise?
What's a chai latte?
I think that's the answer. I think that's
tea.
Our answer.
Okay, tea with milk, like the English ones.
Not really.
The Queen, no? Okay, sorry.
We'll come back. We'll have a deep dive into chai latte at the end there, James, and we'll see if we can sort you out with one of those. There may be.
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know what's a chai tea latte is.
Yeah,
well, that's as good an answer as any. I think that gives James an indication of how he might get on asking for one of those in Portugal. Okay, just one more thing then, because we do need to go to dress and driving. There's so much to say, and I hope people are making notes because it's been so rich in information tonight. Thank you both so much. But people in Portugal are not drinking to get drunk, as some people in other cultures do, and the British do have to put their hands up to that. Drinking is a slow and steady thing. It's definitely part of the culture, isn't it? No question about that. But people don't drink to drown their sorrows here. It's a social thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't drink wine, so Filomena don't drink coffee. I don't
What
drink
is going
wine,
on here tonight?
so maybe we are not Portuguese.
We are not you have chosen the wrong people here.
Yeah.
I definitely have. I think you'll have an answer to this though. I'm sure.
I only drink in special occasions. I don't drink wine regularly, but yes, it's a common thing in Portugal. Wine is not very expensive, so it's a traditional and cultural. Back in the, I don't know, more than 100 years, we have all people had some family with some wine cellar that could serve the wine. So it's like a historical reason, and we drink wine every meals. Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Good.
it's usual. It's usual for the Portuguese to drink a glass of wine at lunchtime, for example, even if you are working, because that is something that when I go out with some foreigners and imagine that, okay, it's a day as any other of my working day, you know, I'm giving lessons and everything. And then we go out for lunch and I have a glass of wine and they go, but you are working. Well, a glass of wine will kill me.
Exactly. Calm down, everybody.
Because it's just one glass of wine. It's not a whole bottle.
Well said.
And it's good. Yeah. It's good for your health. It has tannins, you know, tanninos in the wine. It's good for.
Yeah.
You know what? Some people are really glad they're choosing Portugal tonight, hearing this information. So not only do we drink the wine at lunchtime,
unless you are driving. You can drink, okay?
Fair enough. That's good call. Good call, Anna. Okay.
You are driving, only one glass.
Okay. All right. Last thing in the restaurant, if I may, and we'll come to you, and Jerry, after this. Tipping in Portugal. It is an awkward thing, tipping, because people really want to show their appreciation sometimes through tipping, and it's a big thing in America, obviously, but not such a big thing here in Portugal, is it?
It is.
It is a big thing.
It is, yes. I don't know why you think it isn't, but it is. The only thing is, in my opinion, the difference is that the Portuguese can't afford as much as the Americans to tip as much. So when we do tip, but of course our tips are, you know, just a small tip because we can't afford giving more. But of course, people always appreciate. And if you are a waiter, a waitress, or you know, you always appreciate a lot if you are tipped.
Okay, so 10% would do.
And it's an important part of their earnings.
Income.
If you are, if you are a waiter.
Forgive me. I just thought it wasn't a thing in
No,
Portugal.
but it's not, because in, I don't know exactly, but in the United States, I believe it's written right?
And
when you ask.
in Italy, I have also had some receipts with the tip included.
Here it's just what you want to give. You can give €5, but you can give 50 cents, and you can give nothing. Imagine you go every day to the same restaurant. You don't need to give them €5 or 10. So if you are a big group, you are a big family having dinner with 8 people, of course you won't be leaving 50 cents. You will be leaving like €4, €5. What depends on what you want. It's not expected, but it's very well appreciated.
And it's nice. It's always nice to leave something. Yes, especially if you like the service, because sometimes we don't tip because we didn't like the service, and then we don't. But if we did like the service, yes, we do tip.
But unlike America, it's not in the Constitution. You
don't
leave between 50 to 20%.
And it's okay if you just leave the restaurant and you don't leave the tip. It's okay. You can return. They won't forbid you to enter.
Give you a booing as you go out. Jerry, I think you have something to add to the dining section here.
Yes, just before we leave the dining section, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask, please, which have worried me for some time now. The first one is, when you're in a restaurant, often the food comes out at different times. So should you wait for everybody to have their food and then start eating at the same time? Or should you start eating your food once it's placed in front of you because it'll go cold if you don't? What's correct?
In my opinion, it depends on with whom you are on the table. If it's like a business lunch, it's more formal. Maybe you will wait a little bit. Maybe somebody will say, "Oh, please eat. It will ruin your food if you are waiting." If it's a family
sure.
and you are very good friends, you are together all the time, and it's just a question of 2 or 3 minutes, and you just ask, "Oh, I will start," and everybody say, "Oh, it's okay." So I think it depends on the place, the situation. Okay, and if they do that. Also, it's not the best restaurant if they do that, okay? Because if you select a good restaurant,
well,
they
that
will,
was going to be my other question, because
plates.
it's often the restaurant they're not working to produce the food at the same time.
Yeah,
it just comes up as it comes up.
Yeah, so
usually,
yeah,
I've even had a main course brought to me when I'm still eating my first course.
Okay. Yeah, but usually if it's a good restaurant, they will bring everybody's on the same table at the same time, the plates.
Yeah, I completely agree with Anna.
Okay.
Okay,
So
thank you. And
you need to choose better.
Is there a set etiquette for? Sorry?
You should choose your restaurant better.
You don't get so much choice where I am.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, is there a set etiquette for using the cutlery? Which hand you hold the knife in, which hand you hold the fork in? Is there a
knife on the
standard
right
procedure?
hand? Usually knife on the right hand and fork on the left hand. We don't eat with our with our hands unless it's pizza or burger.
Well, again, it depends
or
on the
French
situation,
fries
right?
or
It depends.
chicken.
If you are with friends, and if you are, it depends on what you are eating as
if
well.
you are eating chicken, But usually, we eat with the
and but generally you always keep both the knife and the fork in your hands, unlike the American style, which is to cut the food and then transfer the fork to the right hand and eat with just the fork.
No, we don't do
That's
that.
American etiquette.
And never put the knife on on your mouth. Never put the knife on your mouth. Okay, that's rude.
And it can be dangerous.
But usually we always have both of the instruments in our hands, and when we finish the meal, we put both of them in the same side. Okay, so
to the right side.
To the right side.
Okay. Okay.
Together. Yeah.
And do you eat the soup away from you? Or to you?
It's my hand that goes to my mouth and not my mouth that goes to the plate.
Oh, very good. Good answer.
So, but some people, there are some people that even drink the soup. So it also depends on where you are. Yeah.
I'd have to leave. I'd have to leave if I saw that, I think.
Yeah, but in some restaurants, they will bring you a bowl instead of a regular soup plate. So it's not a bad thing. Yeah, but usually it's the soup that goes to your mouth and not the mouth that goes to the plate.
Jerry, do you feel better for that?
Well, no, I'm very confused about that because English style is you move the spoon away from your body to the opposite side of the plate when you're eating soup.
Oh, you do like this instead of this?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's your choice. At least I believe it's your choice. Unless you will go to put the plate on your mouth, that's not a problem.
Yeah, you listening, Carl?
Yes. And go on, Jerry. Sorry.
So, are there any other? You mentioned you never put the knife in your mouth. Are there any other table manners that are unacceptable in Portugal?
Put your feet on the table. It's not
okay.
That's where we've been going wrong.
Usually, if you are, that's what I say to my kids. If he's eating, he's not like this. Okay.
Yeah.
With your how do you say this?
Elbows on the table.
With your elbows like this. It's not very nice. Okay. If you can put this part here, like this, here, and not this. Okay. But it's details. Okay.
All right. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. Jerry is available. Jerry's available to be taken out for lunch, where he can demonstrate
I can.
in the Tamar
Yes.
area. So he's very happy to be taken out for lunch with there. Jen says, ships and sails go out to sea. I dip my spoon away from me. That's how Jen was brought up. So I think we have to move on. We are an hour into the webinar. The information has been coming thick and fast. It's absolutely brilliant and hilarious at times too. So thank you, Anna and Philomena. I think probably what we'll do is we'll leave the driving to specific questions in Q&A, but I do need to ask if I'm okay going out in my socks and sandals in Portugal. This is a really important question. So Anna.
You are okay if you want to be seen as a foreigner, because Portuguese don't do that.
All right.
If it's hot, you just take the sandals. What, you don't need the socks. So why is that?
All right, fair enough. But the funny thing is, one of the other questions I wanted to ask tonight, pointing is not polite, is it? So people will not point at your socks and sandals. They will just probably
they do it, but it's not polite. We always say to children, do not point to, because it's difficult. Not polite.
When you're a foreigner and your language is not there, then you tend to resort to hand gestures. But
especially don't point at people. Okay. If you want to point at a building or you want to ask the direction and you are pointing the street or anything, but if you point to somebody, that's considered rude. Yeah, that's
fair enough.
polite.
Worth bearing in mind. And I have seen the look of horror on people's faces when I pointed. I
also, regarding the clothes, don't wear hats inside of the buildings. Okay, hats are used on outside. So if you have a cap, or
even for ladies.
Well, for a lady, it depends. We don't usually we don't use a lot of hats in.
Yeah, but if you visit, for example, if you are visiting monuments, and if you are visiting a church, for example, if you are entering the church, you should take your hat or cap or whatever you have on your head. So ladies and men as well. So if you enter the church, you take your cap or you take your hat, and then when you come out, you can put it on, but not in the church.
Aren't actually in Catholic churches, women are supposed to actually also cover the head?
No,
but that's it used to be a long time ago.
Right. Okay.
They used to have a veil to cover their heads, usually black one, but not nowadays. A hat is not acceptable in a church. No.
Very good. Thank you, Vladimir. And we will come back to your other supplementary question there. Just a couple more then, and we'll go to an open Q&A on the dress codes. This is formality. I went to a CEF meeting. I thought I'd wear a jacket. You know, like when you get on an airplane, sometimes it's quite good to dress up in case you get offered first class. It's never actually happened to me.
But it doesn't work.
But I think it's quite a good look and touch, is it not? If you're going to a formal appointment, is to make a bit of an effort, right? Put a jacket on. You don't need to put a tie on, do you? And you know, other sort of accoutrements, and you know, your walking cane or anything like that, and a monocle. But I think dressing up for a meeting with Seth in a smart casual would be quite useful, would it not, Anna? And let's start with you on that.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. You wouldn't need to do that, would you? Of course. But generally speaking, you know, engaging with the government office, do you think it's
only if I wanted to feel better with myself, not because I want to impress, unless it's like a job interview, because maybe you want to present yourself the way you are working. If your job is a formal and you are presenting in an interview, but I don't think CEF is on that section. But that's my opinion.
Okay, fair enough.
Please don't take bad clothes to the CEF and tell, oh, Anna said it was not important.
The baseball cap. What would you say about that, Philomena?
Yeah, I also think that, as Anna said, CEF wouldn't be very interested in the way you are dressed. But of course, you should look smart. I mean, you shouldn't go, you know, all dirty or things like that. But you know, presentable, but not with a tie or something. You don't need to.
Okay, fair enough. So making an effort, I suppose, is the point here, a bit like with the language, isn't it? And finally, Jerry and I need to know this, so we know whether to do it or not. High heels. This is something people need to know about, isn't it? The calçadas of Portugal make it very difficult for the likes of me and Jerry to wear our high heels on a night out in Lisbon or Porto. We should be aware of this. The calçadas respect nobody, neither king nor pauper, right? So this is a consideration. How best to dress for for dealing with the hills and the calçadas of the big cities? Carry a pair of trainers in your handbag.
That's a good advice. Especially if you are a man, don't wear high heels, okay?
Fair enough. Yeah. All right.
What if you wear high heels with socks?
That's even better.
The question everybody had on their mind, but
some people say Portuguese ladies and women are real athletes if they can run or walk with high heels in the Portuguese floors. But it's good to have comfortable shoes and not slippery as well, because if it's raining, the cobblestone can be very slippery. So and in some cases, if you are going to a formal place or formal and you need to be more fancy for a lunch or something, you can take a bag with your heels and then you change when you enter the restaurant. Some people do that even for working days.
Yeah, even for example in the underground, we see that in Lisbon sometimes. In the underground, people they change their shoes, and you know, if they are coming from work and then they want to be more comfortable and they change into their trainers, and then they, you know, it's I have seen it in the underground.
So in all seriousness, though, the calçadas can be very
slippery. Very dangerous.
Bear that in mind, especially when it's been raining. You two have been amazing. Thank you so much for over an hour of fantastic etiquette pointers to help us avoid culture shock. We didn't get to the driving, but we can take some questions on that in the Q&A. One that's come in that I think is the first of our Q&A session here now, as we go less formal. What is the best way to introduce yourself to your neighbours when you move into your new home? Great question, Marianne. Should I bring some sweet or home-baked items? Is it rude to go and knock on the door to introduce myself? So getting into the neighbourhood, what's the best way to go about that? Philomene, let's start with you.
Yeah, I don't think it's rude to go and introduce yourself. Of course, you can. If you take some sweet, some cake or something, the Portuguese are a sweet tooth. So they always like something sweet. So if you take a cake or something that you have baked, I'm sure they appreciate that a lot. Of course, I'm speaking here where I live in Miranda do Corvo, or in the more rural areas. It's usual that we go and knock on our neighbor's door. I don't know if in the city probably it's not as usual, because if you live in a block of flats, it's probably not very usual to go and knock at the other apartments' doors. But if you are in a town or in a village, yes, it's common to go and introduce yourself to the neighbors, and usually your neighbors will welcome you. And they will want to help you with everything possible. And sometimes it's even, some people consider too much, because the neighbor always wants to help.
Yes, yeah, that's a lovely thing, isn't it? So not only can you leave your back door open, you can expect a bag of oranges inside the back door when you get home sometimes. Anna, did you want to add anything to that?
No, it's from my experience in apartment buildings, we also do that, not to all the neighbors, but at least to the ones in the same floor. And it's nice and polite to introduce yourselves and making some acquaintance and offering something. It's all of course appreciated. You can offer a bottle of wine as well, or something that you make. Imagine you bake yourself, so it's nice to offer something made from you.
Very
but
nice.
It's okay, even in big cities, not going every door, but at least to the same floor. It's nice to do that.
Thanks for that question, Marianne. That's a good one. Vladimir, culture shock, scooters. You were asking, weren't you? Did you want to ask this yourself here?
No sound?
He's just unmuting. I can see he's furiously trying to.
No,
press-
that's
Very
fine.
furious.
Yeah, there is just too many controls on a small surface. But anyways, yeah, like I mean, you know, I'm interested. You know, obviously everybody is seeing, you know, I mean, the a wave of these little scooters and bikes and stuff like that. And I'm just curious, how are Portuguese actually dealing with this? You know, because at least in US they're kind of very weakly regulated right now, because they do obviously represent some fire hazard, you know, sometimes because of the poor quality of batteries, or, you know, even traffic hazard, because they can be ridden on sidewalks, you know, whatever the roads or the combination of those. So how is it looked upon, you know, I mean, generally in the culture, and kind of legally, you know, you know, how you know, what is the state of the e-bike, e-scooter culture in Portugal?
Probably more. Thanks, Vladimir. Probably more in Cascais than in Miranda de Corvo, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Here they are
in Miranda
thousands.
We don't have any e-bikes or e-scooters.
There you go.
Here we have a lot of them. They are inclusive. There are e-scooters and e-bikes from the municipality, which are available for residents to pick up in certain points and drop off near train or bus stops or etc. So they are everywhere. I'm not sure about regulation or laws, but it's good to be in consideration that it's not so long that we have them, so there's still some troubles in the traffic. They cross all over the place, so it's good to be careful, and that's what I can tell you. But in here and in Lisbon, that's the places I know better. They are available everywhere, and they are even the municipalities are inviting people to use them. So they have created these areas for them to go, and so it's common here. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, it's something we're going through, I guess, isn't it, in the culture at the moment? That's great. While we're on the streets, do pedestrians have the right of way when crossing the street? That's a great question from Deborah. No, says Philomena.
No, I would say you should be careful. Crossing the street, you should really be very, very careful, because even there are some accidents sometimes. People are run over even if they are crossing the street on the pedestrian area, the zebra crossing. So my advice is be careful and be sure that you can cross safely before you do.
Very good. Thank you for that. One more question then on etiquette and culture. Is it normal to greet a shopkeeper when you enter the store? That's a nice question.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
Hello, bon dia. Hello,
Bon dia,
good morning. Boa
yes.
tarde. Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me thank you once again. We'll turn the recording off, and we'll address these other questions that have come up about baggage certificates and homeowners associations, and any others that people would prefer to ask, that are not being immortalized on the internet. But I must thank you both. It's been amazing tonight. So much information, so funny at times, and just so knowledgeable and informative this evening. So thank you very much helping us with the etiquette and dealing with or minimizing culture shock, Philomena and Anna. Philomena, as you can see in the chat, does teach Portuguese, trips for Brits at gmail.com, and Anna is part of.
I do some tours as well.
Of course you do. Legendary tours generally around central Portugal. Yeah, people love Philomena's tours. And of course, if you want to talk more with Anna, she is part of the Expats Portugal. Ask our expats. Well, she's not an expat, strictly speaking. She is part of the Expats team. So you're asking an expert Portuguese person there via the website. Thank you both so much, both of you. I wonder if we could show a little jazz hands of
appreciation. Thank you, ladies.
For everybody there. And to thank you for all your questions as well that have come in. And I'll stop the recording right there. Thank you so much.